Hi everyone! We're so excited to have you here to learn about administrative features. My name is Larissa and I'm part of the customer success team at Kintone. I'll be walking you through this session today. This is a great training for anyone who will be a Kintone administrator because we go over the highlights of each of our admin sections. This will give you a good base as you start to set up Kintone for your team. First, we'll review a few features in Users and System Administration. To navigate to Users and System Administration from Portal Home, click the gear wheel to the left of the search bar and select Users and System Administration. In Service Usage, you can check your overall Kintone usage and limits and review your subscription details. In this top portion, you can view the number of licensed users your account has and your overall app usage. If you ever hit limits for apps, fields, records, spaces, or API requests, don't hesitate to reach out to the team and we're happy to discuss increasing those. If you click Subscription Details, you can manage your billing. This includes changing your user count and updating your credit card and billing information. To the right of Departments and Users, you will see Users. This allows you to create and manage all of your Kintone users. To create a new user account, click New User. There are only 3 fields that need to be filled out to activate the user account. First, Display Name. This is the name that will display within Kintone. This is also what the person will be referred to as when they're mentioned in comments and show up in notifications. I recommend making this the user's full first and last name. Next, we have Login Name. Login name is what the user will need in order to log into their Kintone account. I highly recommend making this the user's work email address, all lowercase. Login names are case sensitive and must match exactly when logging in. And an email address is recommended as most users will assume it is that, so it's just easiest to remember. And lastly, email address. Email address is required in order for a user to be able to reset their password on their own via email. It is also required if you decide to set up email notifications. There are a lot of other items to be added, but this is all that is required to get started. Once the details are filled in, click Save. There will then be a pop-up prompting you to create a password for the account. I recommend generating it automatically and then selecting Create and Send via email. This will send the new user their login and password to sign in. When you go back to our full users list, you will see a list of your current Kintone users. Here you can edit individual user details by selecting the pencil icon to the left of their name. Here you can update their user details. You can also verify their login name and change their password if they're having trouble accessing their account on their own. If we go back and click Profile Settings, you can determine what user details you want the end user to be able to update themselves. If you scroll down to the bottom, you can also make a custom text and user selection fields if there's extra information your company likes to note for all users. Once you've made the necessary changes for profile settings, click Save. Setting up departments and groups or roles is beneficial when setting up app permissions, process management, notifications, or mentioning groups of people in comments. Instead of including each individual user, you can just use the entire department or group. Additionally, if an employee leaves the company, you won't have to go in and change any permissions. Simply add their successor to the department or group, and they will receive the same notifications and permissions set. When creating your departments and groups or roles, you'll notice they are located in different spots within Users and System Administration. This is because they're set up a little differently and have a few different features associated with them. This visual shows how to differentiate departments, groups, and roles using job titles. First, you'll want to set up your departments and add each user into the appropriate department. With departments, you can set them up with a hierarchy, add in department administrators to manage user profiles in their department, and set up department access control to limit access to other users in different departments. Groups allows you to dynamically add members. Once you have your department set up, you can create groups that add in members if they meet certain criteria, like belonging to certain departments or having a specific job title. You can even include people from multiple departments in a single group. So let's review the setup for each. From departments and users, you can create a new department. Just select New Department, fill out the name of the department, any optional settings if desired, and click Save. You can also create subdepartments. To do this, simply hover over the department you'd like to add a subdepartment to. Select Add Child Department. Enter the name of the subdepartment and click Save. Next, let's take a look at job titles. From Job Titles, click New. Enter the job title and an optional description, and click Save. You can give a user a job title by editing their user profile. Just add them to a department and select the job title from the drop-down, and click Save. Now let's set up a group. From Groups or Roles, click New. Name the group and add an optional description. You can choose to create a static group, which will allow you to manually add in users, or a dynamic group, which will automatically add users based on set criteria. Static groups are good when you need to group together users who all don't necessarily have anything in common. An example could be a party planning committee. The users are part of a group, but come from all over the company and are in many different departments and roles. A dynamic group is great for grouping people by their role. For example, you could have a managers group that auto-adds anyone with the job title manager. Once you decide your type, you'll click Save. And then next, click the gear wheel to the right of the saved group and select Edit Membership Conditions. To create our managers group, we'll select All Conditions Are Met. Job title includes any of manager, and click Save. You'll see now it auto-added Michelle, who we just set as a manager for her job title. So as you get started in Kintone, I highly recommend setting up your departments first. As you and your team start using the system, you'll learn more and more how you want to break the users up even further into groups. In Administrators, you can add other Kintone users as Kintone Users and System Administrators. A Kintone admin has access to all of these back-end users and system administration settings. This includes, but is not limited to, accessing subscription details, creating users, and setting login security settings. Kintone administrators have access to the app settings of every app not listed in the private app group. They also have permission to all features of the platform, like creating apps in Spaces and accessing Kintone administration, which is another set of admin features accessible from Portal Home. To add a user as an administrator, find their name from the department and users list, or search their name in the search bar, select their name, and click Add. Once you're all set, you'll go ahead and save your changes. We highly recommend having more than one user and system administrator per account. This will be beneficial if the main admin has login trouble, if the admin suddenly leaves, or if an end user needs help resetting their password and the main admin is out. In Header under Customize, you can change the logo that shows up on the top left of the header bar to your own. You can also determine a URL that is linked to the logo when clicked. By default, you will see the Kintone logo and it will automatically navigate you to Portal Home when selected. To make changes, simply upload your logo or enter a URL and click Save. In Login page under Customize, you can upload an image to display on your login page. When you first sign up, the default is a gray background. This feature allows you to add in a fun image that ties into your company. You can also change the welcome text. This text will display above the login box when users are signing in. To change the login page, simply upload a file or change your welcome text and click Save. In Login under Security, you can configure password complexity requirements, maximum number of failed login attempts, and many other login security measures. This password policy section is where you'll go to set certain requirements and restrictions your company may have for your own password policies. This includes items like allowing users to reset their password, requiring alphanumeric and symbols in passwords, and allowing users to use their login name as their password. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see the options to enable SAML authentication and two-factor authentication if you require additional login security measures. Once you've configured your settings, click Save. In Access Control under Security, you can configure IP address restrictions to enhance security and change your subdomain URL. In IP address restrictions, you can grant access to Kintone within specific IP address ranges. Once you configure IP address restrictions, access to Kintone is denied if a computer is not in the IP address range that you specified. If Allow All is selected, it will allow anyone access to your Kintone subdomain. For this option, we recommend each user enables two-factor authentication to enhance security. If Allow Specific IP Addresses is selected, you will enter the IP address information for your office, and all users using the IP address will be able to access Kintone. Those using a different IP address will be denied access. Once you change the settings, click Save. In Domain Name, you can change your domain name, which is the URL to access your Kintone account. If you change the domain name, you need to inform all users of the new domain name, as the old URL will no longer be valid. To make a change, type in the new desired subdomain name and click Save. In Localization, you can set the system time zone and language for your domain. The system will be set to Pacific time by default, so I highly suggest updating this as soon as possible if you're in another region. If you created user accounts before making this change, those previously created user accounts will be in Pacific time. You can update that setting for each user in their user details, or they can update it themselves from their account settings page. By default, the language for your account will be set to English. At this time, we also support Japanese and simplified Chinese. After you make changes to your time zone or language settings for your account, click Save. From Contact Us, you can quickly submit a ticket to our support team. When you click Contact Us, simply fill out the form and click Send to submit a ticket. You also have the option to contact support by emailing support@kintone.com directly or by filling out our form at kintone.com/support. Next, we'll review another set of admin features in Kintone Administration. To navigate to Kintone Administration from Portal Home, click the gear wheel to the left of the search bar and select Kintone Administration. In App Management, this is like a one-stop shop for all things related to apps. In this top portion, You can view your current usage similarly to what you see in the Service Usage section of Users and System Administration. You will see your limits for apps and where you are currently. If you're ever close to hitting those limits, don't hesitate to reach out to the team and we'd be happy to discuss increasing them. If you scroll down, you'll see a list of apps. As an administrator, you will have access to every app in Kintone right from this page. That can be overwhelming if you're just trying to review those that you've created, so you can select to see only those you have created from this dropdown. As we look at the table of apps, you can navigate to the app or their app settings and review any recent updates made. From this page, you can also delete apps by clicking the trash icon to the right and create new apps by selecting Create App on the top left. In Space Management, Kintone administrators will be able to manage and view a list of existing spaces. A Kintone space is a workspace where you can add apps and collaborate with team members by viewing common information and discussion threads. If you're new to Spaces and want to learn more, I've included a link to a tutorial on how to use a space as part of this training so you can review it later in more detail. In Permission Management, you can grant users permissions to create apps and spaces, access system administration, or to configure app groups. Kintone administrators will always have access to these features regardless of the settings set here in Permission Management. This set of permissions is for the Kintone platform as a whole. Permissions can be set for the apps in each app's individual settings. To set permissions, click Add. Then enter the user, group, or department you'd like to set permissions for. Check the boxes for permissions you'd like to allow access to, and uncheck any boxes for permissions you don't want them to have access to. The Permission Inheritance column determines whether or not all child or subdepartments are included in the assigned permissions. Check the box to grant the same permissions to the child or subdepartments. Once you have configured the settings, click Save. In Header Color, you can change the color of the header bar at the top of Kintone. Since you can update the logo displayed on the top left, this will be an important step depending on the colors in your logo. To change, just select one of the colors here or enter the 6-digit hexadecimal color code here and click Save. If you'd like a specific color but don't know the color code, you can just do a quick Google search to find it. In Feature Activation, you can enable email notifications and manage the activation of spaces and people. Under Email Notifications, check the box to activate email notifications if you and your users would like to receive notifications via email. For a user that logs in every day, it won't be necessary as they can check them via the bell icon. If you have some users that only log in on an as-needed basis, email notifications may be useful for them as an outside alert to log in. Default value for receiving setting will note the default value for all new user accounts. No matter what you select, a user can change the setting for their user account in their personal settings by clicking the gear wheel next to Search and selecting Personal Settings. Under Space and People, you can decide if you want to keep Spaces and the People feature active. A Kintone space is a workspace where you can add apps and collaborate with team members by viewing common information and discussion threads. Spaces display on Portal Home by default. If you decide your team doesn't need this feature at this time, you can simply uncheck and deactivate. The People feature allows for collaboration with other Kintone users. While checked, users can private message other users inside Kintone or view their Kintone profile details. I highly recommend keeping both active as they are a unique part of Kintone to help collaborate with your team and centralize your data. Once you've made all the necessary changes, click Save. In restoring app and space, you can restore an app or space within 14 days of deleting it. To restore the app or space, enter the app ID or the space ID and click the Restore button. If you don't know the space or app ID, you can find it through the audit logs in Users and System Administration. There's an easy navigation link here that will take you directly to the audit log settings. From audit logs, change the filter settings for date and enter either space delete or app delete in Action. It will then display what has been deleted. Click the information icon and the ID will display at the bottom of the pop-up. Once you have the ID, we'll go back to our Restoring App and Space page and enter the ID in the appropriate box. Once that's set, we'll click Restore, and then restore this app.